Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Coach's Corner. I am Adam Gahabe, a focal point of Cary, and my counterpart, as always, is Mike Lamb, a focal point of Utah. Coach's Corner, it is a weekly podcast where we talk about business topics, hopefully enlighten you, but more importantly, force you to take some perspective and look at the way that you're evaluating your business, how you're handling the day-to-day operations, and hopefully making continuous improvement. So, Mike, how are you doing on this lovely day?
Oh, it's a lovely day, and I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here and glad to be
Always.
recording with you, Adam. It's a fun kind of time of year, and it we've kind of hit a new level in where we're at. We're almost 12 months into this, aren't we?
I believe so. This is episode 36.
Yeah.
So, time flies. As we all know, I look forward to this meeting every single week. I hope you all realize that we're trying to get better. I I hope that actually works.
We're
But
finding a lot more enjoyment out of it, I can tell you that much. At least I am personally.
100%. It's really hard to put yourself in front of the camera the first time. And actually, Mike, I was going back and watching some of our original episodes. Let's call it 1 through 35. God, they were terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's just be honest. There was a
Those
special one.
first
I
ones
think it
they were pretty bad. Yeah,
There was a special one around 24 or 22. I can't remember.
they got better. Anyway,
But we started
today,
this in September,
yeah,
right? But we've been coaching now for a year.
year plus. And so actually, you just tee this up perfectly for me. So the first thing that we're going to do today is we're going to go back to something that we've done a couple times prior, but we're just going to go with some rapid fire questions. There is no theme of the day. It's going to just be, you know what, Mike, I haven't sat down, we haven't done this, and so we're going to learn some things about each other, what we've learned throughout this past year. And so I guess that's going to be our theme. And so my number one teed up question that I have for you is, now that we've been doing this for roughly a year, what was your biggest takeaway that you've learned in the last 12 months?
Um, yeah, good question.
Mm,
When I think about it, is the value that we add as a coach
mhm,
is so much greater than what I thought it would be. Um,
mm.
And each coaching session, and as I coach, I want to bring value to the client, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm just talking and spitting out, principles and information and quotes, it's not personalized. When I personalize it and I'm adding value, I prepare every lesson and add value.
Hmm.
It's significant, and it changes people's businesses and it changes sometimes their lives.
Yep.
And I've been able to see that. I knew that was going to be something, it was one of the main deciding factors to go into coaching,
Yep.
but it's more significant than I thought it would be. And to see the growth, even, I've been coaching some people 9 months, some people, 3 weeks, but to see the value that it adds and to have them tell me the value it adds. I know that sounds very selfish, but to hear that from them and see that it's it really is impressive, and it makes me enjoy what I do more and more. And that's been my big takeaway is that I really enjoy coaching and I enjoy seeing businesses improve, whether that's growth in financial ways or growth in managing their employees or growth in
Hmm.
just managing themselves. I've been able to add value, and it's been
Yeah.
huge to me. What about
You
you?
know, well, I'll get
Well,
into that in just a moment. So when people validate that what you do has value, but that you're good at what you do, that means so much. Like, right. So I'm hearing you when people say, you're really good at what you do. Man, I get immense joy and pride in that. So 100% understand, agree, and feel likewise. If you're asking me, let's see, what did I learn the most within the first year of this? It'd be pretty easy. I've learned that the majority of the problems that I help people solve are all communication based. That's it. I mean, I'd love to go into oh wait, I will. No, I'm just kidding. I'd love to tell you it's more than that, but I think that's my biggest takeaway so far is that the majority of problems have to do with not being able to get information out of your brain onto a paper, onto a document, onto a spreadsheet, into an SOP, not being able to articulate the value that you're trying to add by implementing a given change and having that change fall on the floor because it wasn't well, you know, communicated, it wasn't well pressed, pushed out. Um, Communication. And it's one of those things that most of us pride ourselves on. We're like, I'm a really good communicator. I'm a good talker. Um, but I think my biggest takeaway is most of the problems are communication based, and most of the communication problems have nothing to do with talking. It has to do with listening. Right? I don't think we do enough of that. Or we listen through our own kind of window. We only kind of hear what we want to hear. We only kind of evaluate whatever the proposed is through our own lens and through how it impacts us. And I think it's fascinating, but at the same time, kind of maddening
Yeah.
because we can simplify this stuff. I mean, what? A couple episodes back, we are talking about simplification. This is it.
It's interesting. This weekend, I was visiting some places. We went on a little trip, a little family
Mm,
vacation. But in one of the businesses I went into, I could see into the back from the front desk where I was talking to an employee, and they had their SWOT written up on a piece of cardboard
hmm
with a Sharpie: strength, communication; weakness, communication; threat, lack of communication. Those were the number one things on three out of four of their
So,
SWOT analysis that they had done. They must have done it as a group, I assume. I
mhm.
actually wanted to talk to somebody about it, but it was just a girl at the front desk. I didn't think I would get much communication or
You
response
wanted to
on
go
that.
nerd out about coaching, didn't you?
I wanted to go sit in the back and talk to the owner about the SWOT, but that strength and weakness and threat was all communication.
It's funny. You went prospecting. You literally saw someone's SWOT, and you're like, "Ooh, this is a possible client."
Totally.
Well, that's funny.
But it was
That's
on a Saturday afternoon at about 4 o'clock. I didn't think anyone I wanted to talk to was going to be at the establishment. Might go back.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I see the world through a different lens than I used to be honest. And I certainly hope that actually, like the people that I coach can have that same statement and be able to say the same thing. Because what is it that we're trying to do? We're trying to get people to change their perspectives and see things through a different lens, a different light. And why is that? Because we're trying to challenge status quo, right? You constantly hear me say, and I know you say it too, you know, the same old thoughts, the same old actions give you the same old results. And so one of the things that we try to do is to get people to kind of reevaluate what they're looking at. Don't just solve the problems the way that you traditionally have always solved them, because they may not be getting you the results that you're looking for. It may be easier, um, but it may not be progressing you, right? And so changing that perspective, I know we actually just talked about perspective not too long ago, um, but it's fascinating. I think we learn a lot, whether we've been doing this a year, 10 years, 5 years. Hopefully you learn on a daily basis, right? And not just ourselves, but our clients, the people we serve. And I hope everyone every single day wakes up and strives to learn something new. I was just out having coffee with, a young gentleman this morning, super thirsty, right? Like, I mean, the hunger of this gentleman was just incredible. And, he just was asking question after question after question. And I'm like, what's your purpose? He goes, to be a sponge. He's like, I'm just soaking all this stuff in. And I was like, okay. Um, I like meeting people like that. Anyway,
All
uh,
right. I have a question for you. What would you say is the and I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. What would you say is the most frustrating thing as a coach when you're
Mm.
interacting with a client? Kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about.
Twofold. The
Yeah.
first one is going to be obvious for anyone who does this, but we spend, for every hour that we spend with a client, there's probably 90 minutes beforehand and 90 minutes after, right? So like 1 hour to you is really 4 hours to us, right?
Yeah.
So my biggest frustration is when I get in there and I am all prepared to go gung ho into something. And it's like, some epiphany happens or some earth-shattering moment. It's like everything that I just prepped for is now gone. And
Yeah.
and everyone's always like, "Oh, Adam, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Actually, don't be." Because if you're not able to engage and pay attention, it doesn't matter what I want to talk about anyway. So, on the personal selfish side, I think that's my biggest kind of frustration is just when you have all this great work, when you build out these great exercises, when you have all this fantastic curriculum and then you can't share it, or it just gets put on the shelf. And my frustration is not because I don't get a chance to share it. I was just excited to,
Yeah.
you know? So I'd say that's probably my biggest selfish one. How about you?
Uh, um, and this is something I've probably said 100 times on this podcast, is I believe that action creates momentum, and
Hmm.
it's when people don't take action based on what I've coached them, and I come back to a meeting with them and nothing took place. And the
So,
action didn't happen. And with coaching, if we're
mhm,
coaching you on something, putting that in place and making that an action item and doing something with what you've been taught builds the momentum. So the next time we get together, we're going to add to that, right? We're building.
mhm.
And if we didn't build the time before, then what we're going to add isn't going to add the total benefit to them that we would hope for. So the lack of action, and that's probably just a human trait and something that we have to learn to accept as coaches and what we're trying, why we're doing it, probably, honestly, coaching, um, is trying to get them to take that action to change and get that momentum going.
Yeah, you're right. Um,
You're like, you're right, that's it.
no, I mean,
There's nothing, but it kept it pretty simple there, but it's
I'd
true.
love to tell you there's more, but you're right. Um, it's fascinating. It's interesting. I guess I get frustrated about that, but at the same token, I don't because it's an opportunity for me to dive into, well, what'd you do instead?
There you go. You always flip
Right?
it. I love that about you. Yep.
Um, and once again, this isn't about chastising or doing the work or not doing the work, but they clearly prioritized something else. So what that tells me is a couple things. Either one, they didn't see the value in what we were doing, which, to be honest, is more of an indication on me, either how I presented it, how I laid out the value, how I identified it being a stepping stone or a building block. And so if and when that happens, that's on me. But if I did a good job of doing that and they still didn't do it, then that means actually we can flip this and go back to my comment. Then that means that they're preoccupied with something else.
Yeah.
There's something else that's bigger to them. And I think we have to stop and take a TV timeout and delve on that. I think we have to figure out, what is that big thing and why it derailed them. Because people like to make progress. People like stepping stones. They like building blocks. They love it when you say, you know what, I just want to take that quick second and comment that you're making a ton of progress. And you know what's funny, Mike? People don't look at it the same way that we do. I look at someone that I was coaching for 3 months, right? And I'm like, do you realize where we were 3 months ago? And when you spell it out, and then you're like, look at how you're even approaching the problems now. Look at, the level of clarity and understanding that you've got. Look at all the changes that you're making in how you're communicating, how you're evaluating, how you're thinking into the future and projecting what the outcomes are, how you're measuring the results. I think people far too often don't stop to smell the roses per se. And they also don't give themselves credit for the small wins because it may not manifest itself into, a financial windfall. And I think the thing that I try to stress and clarify is we didn't get here overnight, right? Any business doesn't grow overnight. Certainly, businesses don't get into trouble overnight. It takes a while to achieve your results, and you have to be mindful of all the little wins you make along the way because it's stringing those little wins in a consistent manner together that gets you that momentum that you're truly talking about.
Yeah,
That to me is fascinating. So I always like to spin it and say, well, what'd you do instead?
I like it.
Yeah. Um, So let's kind of piggyback and keep going down that path. So this is not about frustrations. This is not about clients doing or not doing the work. Um, what is the best statement that you've gotten from a client in terms of impact that you've had, either on the business, on the person, on the professional, etc.?
Oh, interesting. Um, the best statement I've gotten is, and it's very simple one, but going over key performance indicators and key results indicators. I had an individual come to me and say, "You help me identify the most important things for me to be doing in my business, and I have created this." And they actually sent it to me. And I kind of hesitate to force people to send homework to me. I'm not a teacher, but
Hmm.
this individual sent it to me, and the response he gave me, he took thought and effort and created this beautiful tracking sheet for his key performance indicators, and he had a plan for each one and the results. And that's one of the times that I felt like I made one of the biggest impacts on a business that wasn't looking at any of those things. And he said, "This will change my business." Just this one little thing, creating this spreadsheet, working with you, talking through it and preparing it,
Hmm.
feels like it's like changed my whole approach. And it simplified it too. He did make a statement that this seems simple and achievable.
Okay. That had to make you feel good.
Oh yeah, that validates, right? I'm keep talking about validating me, making me feel good about myself. But what about you? What's the best you've ever received?
Um, I think it's pretty easy. You know how when we go through our disc assessments and we do those types of things, I know, and I've said this before, but people, when they say that they have kind of been able to take that from the business side and take it into the home life, that's pretty awesome. The fact that you can help someone across multiple avenues and
Yeah.
truly, enlightenment and growth is not something that's just business related. I think is kind of one of the biggest points. Um, if I was going to be a little bit off the cuff, I'd say people are always amazed when we talk about industry specificity and being a subject matter expert in your industry, especially when we talk about networking and pitching and being able to deliver things. And I'm able to spur the moment, come up with my version, Adam's version of what you should say or what you should think or how to make that emotional connection, or when we are articulating who ideal clients are, ideal business partners, how I'm able to put myself in their headspace and truly understand their industry, their organization, their needs. And I'm able to do that because I follow a structure. I follow a framework. Whether I'm talking about coaching, whether I'm talking about, roofing, whether I'm talking about plumbing, whether I'm talking about being a nurse, it doesn't matter. It's the ability to adapt and kind of be that one person to any industry or any person, and people are impressed by that. I think that's probably one of my biggest, like, attaboy, dude. Uh,
Yeah,
Not bad. Anyway,
it's great.
we
Um,
this is turning into a very
yeah,
gratifying or self-gratifying
I
episode. So
was
apologies to all, but
I was about to come around full circle on this. We don't often talk about ourselves and our coaching careers and our coaching, and we just did that for a little bit. But I hope that people that are listening, it helped them to see, what a coach can do, what we can do for them.
yep,
Um, and but we really find joy in doing these podcasts and sharing new information that we think is helpful. And that's why we focus on that. We're not too focused on ourselves on these podcasts. So really appreciate having that session with
yeah,
you and talking through it. And then
of
um,
course.
we'll get back to our normal content next week. But we hope that some people listening, it'll add value to them, and it those that we're working with hope that they're listening and understand how much we appreciate the opportunity to help
Absolutely.
improve businesses and be a part of their whole story and their whole business. And I really am thankful for that. And that's kind of my gratitude
Thanks to us.
statement. And that's where I'm going to close out. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
You know what? I think you just said that all too well. We don't normally make these about us. So I'm really happy that you closed out the way that you did because it's not about us. It never is and never will be. It's about the people that we serve and hopefully the value that they and everyone else gets out of the knowledge, the sharing, the caring, the understanding that we put into each of our practices. So, all I can say is thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for going on these journeys with us. And until next time, Coach's Corner signing off.